second guest we have is Ritam Gupta, a full stack developer. So any technology enthusiast, you can ask him multiple questions. Grad at MIT World Peace University. The third guest is Reina Angelo, a digital well-being advocate. He's also a runner, reader, and a singer. Okay, now over to you. The guests can continue.
I did not know Reina can sing, but okay.
Don't even think about anything.
Okay, awesome. So, okay, welcome everybody to Digital Wellness or Primer by LookUp India. LookUp India is a non-profit. Well, it is an India-oriented initiative which is sparked by lookup.live, which is in turn a non-profit working towards providing opportunities for the youth to develop healthy relationships with technology. A big shout out to Kavya and the GNITS IEEE student branch team for hosting us today. I know it's a Sunday morning, come on, but we are all glad that you could, take out the time to actually come out and attend a session on this very, very important and relevant topic. We also hope to maintain this collaboration even for future LookUp India initiatives, and there are a lot, trust. Okay, so I hope everybody can see the screen, and if there are any technical difficulties, please let us know in the chat so we can kind of figure it out. Okay, so big question. Who are we in the whole wide world, and why are we here, and how did we motivate ourselves to get up on a Sunday morning to come and join this? Okay, because that's a very important question I feel we must answer. So of course Kavya has introduced us already. Let me just rerun through it once. I am Ritom. I am a full stack developer. I like to dabble in technology. You can find me on Twitter if you like. I'll let the others introduce themselves.
Right. So my name is Reina. Currently a actual analyst at a company called Swissre. And in my free time, I try to pursue things like digital wellness. I've been in the digital wellness field for around 1.5 years and have been trying to, make pathways into it.
Awesome. Kavya has already given a brief introduction, but basically I speak a lot about digital wellness, and I've also had my struggles with technology usage and digital addiction. So I've done a lot of TED Talks, I've done a lot of workshops around digital wellness. So that is what I do personally. But professionally, I work with EY in tech consulting. So that's a brief introduction, and I look forward to interacting with all of you.
Definitely. Thanks for that, Rijal. Okay. So if you haven't already noticed, we are currently in an online situation, right? We are currently in an online meeting, which involves us and you guys as well. So what do you think when you see the word online, right? So there are a couple of things which you might think about. So first thing is probably binging. Binging is probably what comes to your mind a lot, popular platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Hotstar. All of these are popular platforms in the online world. They have content on their platforms, and we as users have to go onto their platforms to actually watch their content, right? Also, don't tell anyone. I just need to go like right after the session. I need to rewatch some episodes. So let's get this over with. So the next thing is probably online calls and webinars, right? These keep on happening all the time. Your schedule is completely blocked because of this. It's almost like your calendar is not your calendar, it's someone else's calendar. Also, yes. Also another thing, excess usage of social media. So have you ever gone onto YouTube to watch a 5-minute video, but you end up 5 hours later watching something completely random and nonsense, like a tutorial on how to talk to giraffes? I've been there. I have searched it. Not exactly that, but something extremely random and nonsense. So it happens a lot. Also, does your back begin to hurt after sitting in front of a screen for a very long time? I have begun to experience back pain. I'm like, 24, 23 years old. It's definitely not a good sign at my age. Also, okay, fake news. Okay. Fake news exists, okay? If you don't believe me, you should go out and check your family WhatsApp group. You will find some sort of fake news there. I don't mean to demean your family WhatsApp group. I'm sure your family is extremely awesome. But what I mean is fake news is extremely rampant, and it is also easily believable, right? And they are pretty much there on any kind of social interaction platform out there. right? So you must beware of fake news as well. Okay, and I tried searching for a meme on fake news yesterday. We were making this presentation yesterday. And I was trying very hard to find a meme for fake news. But I kid you not, this is the only thing I could find. This guy. No, seriously, like I literally got this guy every time I search for fake news meme, right? And if you don't believe me, this is a screenshot of the Google search I did. So it's all the same guy. Another common ill effect of online platforms is probably cyberbullying, and it is also very common. And it is absolutely not a cool thing to do, and you should never resort to bullying. Also, guess what? Not everything is bad about tech. There are good aspects as well. You can make connections outside of your circle. Good example would be LinkedIn. If you ignore the LinkedIn feed, that is, only the connections make sense. You can also watch a variety of content online. And just for comparison, one episode of Doordarshan's rerun of Ramayan clocked 77 million views worldwide, much more than the Game of Thrones or Big Bang Theory. So that's variety for you. You can also get worldwide access to resources and material. And yes, I believe Japanese anime has much better content than Bollywood. That would not have been possible without tech, right? Only because of tech was I able to understand that, hey, different kinds of content exist in the world and you should be more receptive and open-minded about it. Also, lesser known events can reach wider audiences, right? Just like Buzz Lightyear would say, to infinite views and beyond. You can also have conversations on different things, like this 2-carat ring. You can read it if you want to. It's a ring with 2 carats on it. And you can also give opinions. You can also listen to others' opinions, and you can give back opinions, and you can also listen back opinions, right? So that's the thing about the internet. You get yourself exposed to a lot of different viewpoints, and it is up to you to extract the best value out of it. So here we've put all the negative sides of tech on the left and all the positive sides on the right. And this is kind of an understanding of how we approach tech, that is to reduce the ill effects of tech and reinforce the positive side. Also, to put it very simply, you cannot and probably should not be anti-tech, but you should opt for a healthy tech lifestyle. Also, do you have any personal experiences with the good and bad sides of tech? If you do, please feel free to let us know in the chat. We all would probably be able to relate with it. So feel free to go ahead and
what we just talked about were just examples, but we know there are a lot of other situations we could talk about. Yes, Keith, go ahead. Do you want to probably unmute and talk about it if you want? Yes, I can see your hands up. Purba, go ahead.
Well, I know about this. I go on to Netflix because of my recommendations, because of the things that I watch. They always search something very similar to what I have watched, and they just pop it up. And the minute I open it, I'm hooked. I know this because this happened yesterday. I just randomly I opened Netflix after maybe a week or two, and I saw this Midnight Mass. Okay, seemed interesting. After I watched the trailer, I said, okay, I have to watch it. And then I realized, no, I should not. I will be wasting my time.
Binge watching.
Yeah, binge watching. I'll have to stick to my script.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Apuba. Anyone else? There are so many situations we can talk about.
I can go.
Anyone else? Yeah. I think Geet is coming. Let's cover after
If
that.
we have people with them.
Yeah, just had one question.
Yes,
do you guys binge watch or not? Or are you guys totally cut off from that?
I do.
I honestly don't, but yeah, sometimes I also fall to that trap. But yes, generally not.
So do you consider that as a trap?
I would say if you're consuming Netflix like sometimes or any OTT platform sometimes that's good. But if you're binge watching, that's not good because ultimately it's affecting your physical health, mental health. I don't consider that as a good use of tech because you're sitting there. Yeah.
Even like binge watching itself might not be the issue. It's more like you should not eat into the schedule of other things you have planned.
Exactly.
If you begin to do that, then you kind of begin to demean your other work and give importance to this binge watching, which probably should not have that amount of value attached to it. So it's about value attachment, how much you prefer one over the other and how much of value does it give back to you in return.
Correct. Plus, just one more thing to add. While we're looking at time we spend, it's also important to look at the content. Just don't look at screen time itself, because given that we've come to an online world, all of us have to do a lot of things online. So the content really matters, because we need to look at things from a growth mindset. Like whatever we're consuming, it should help us grow. Or entertainment is also okay, but growth should be there in some aspect. That's the point that I want to put across.
I think it's very important to understand that we're not saying don't have any of these platforms with you. Full disclosure, I have access to Netflix, Apple TV, Prime Video, Hotstar, everything. But I don't binge watch. I'm very bad at finishing shows. But there are days like where I just want to watch 2 episodes back to back. But I plan those in advance. So I finish my work and then I know I have capacity to watch something. That's fine because you have your priorities set. I had a friend in college. He skipped 2 days to finish some season of Suits, which is out back then. All the episodes in one single day. That is not good. That's what we're trying to avoid because, he decided to skip college and watch a TV show for the whole day. Priorities are something which I think at this age we should learn to take a call on. Once you do that, then it really doesn't matter.
Okay. And to add to that, I want to say that we also struggle. Like all three of us are giving a talk, but we do struggle with our tech usage. Like we probably might check it last thing in the night, first thing in the morning, or we might use it too much, or we might have back-to-back online meetings. But the idea is that we need to evolve in this digital age. Technologies are also becoming much more pervasive or much more addictive, and we also need to take steps to become have a healthy relationship with tech. So that's the point I want to put across. And this session would kind of enable you to give those steps plus help you realize the problem much better.
Exactly. Not immortal, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
We have our flaws.
Exactly.
We're still learning. We're learning how to, work around it.
Correct.
It's subjective to everyone's situation.
Exactly. Now,
so I have an experience. Can I share?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have spoken about OTT platforms, right? So it's not just about OTT platforms. It also happens with social media and YouTube, right? When you go onto YouTube, you watch some information that you feel is informative, but then you keep on scrolling down on the same content, and somewhere there is a bias involved in it, right? Somewhere you only get one perspective of it. So the good side is you are getting information, but the bad side is you are only having a similar kind of perspective or bias of similar people. So how do we avoid that?
Yeah. So I think I get your question. Basically, there's a concept called filter bubble. So what happens is when you go to your social media sites, you like some kind of content, you follow some kind of content, you comment on some kind of content. So your algorithm kind of tweaks towards you. So your content becomes your algorithm, or your feed becomes biased towards you. And what happens is in filter bubble is you see only that world which I'm talking about, which you're liking, which you're commenting. But there's a whole world outside that filter bubble which you don't see. So we become very biased in that sense. So in how to tackle this is basically feed your algorithm instead of the algorithm feeding you. Like if you feel you're becoming biased, try to search something opposite. Like for example, if you're following some left party content, try to search on something right party content, follow that kind of content. So try to obviously look at opposite things, following them, unfollowing them. So I think that's how you feed your algorithm. And that is how I think it generally becomes much more unbiased. I hope that makes sense.
There's another thing which these apps are doing. They do is, if you actually dig into your settings, almost every application has a portion where they have maximum access to your data, where they share it with their partners. For example, the location, the time you spend, the things you search. If you can remove access to all of this, you can do it on Twitter, where you can prevent Twitter from sharing information with partners. You can prevent Twitter from picking sensitive information where you have logged in from. Minimize all those things. the default mainstream biases go away. So the regional biases go away. I don't get content specific to India. I get content to what I search. So if you follow a residual step where you go away from the algorithm, that's one thing. But there are certain biases which come in even if you're not trying to get those biases. It's like specific to your region or your time zone or people who are targeting content towards a region. If I want to follow something from Europe, I search something from Europe. But I don't want to stop searching things like from Asia or from America. So what you do is if you know what you're searching for, so that intentionality has to come in, right? If you're using Twitter, for example, to learn about coding, which I highly suggest people should do, by the way, start searching for coding, but don't stick to the same accounts. So the more you involve yourself in one account, the less they show you of another account. So if you keep going and searching for other articles, interacting with other tweets and all, then it starts forming a more broader spectrum of that topic. And if you want to get out of the topic, you start focusing on other topics. It's exactly what Rachel said. So that's how it works. It's a bit tricky because even the company founders don't really know how the algorithm works. No one's phone, even with the same followers, will show you the same screen. So yeah, that's more or less beyond our control. But these two combined is something we can really do.
And tech companies are doing something to kind of counter this. We are not here to say that tech companies are bad. There are good aspects of technology. Like we're all having this workshop because of Microsoft Teams. So a lot of tech companies are doing good as well, and we need to also focus on that aspect. Because tech companies are going to take a lot of time to change. Till then, we can't just wait and have that unhealthy relationship with tech. We can take those small steps and transform our relationship with tech.
Yeah, so
having control in you.
Just give an example of what tech companies are doing. I recently saw an added beta feature on Google search that it's going to show you why a particular search result was shown to you. So you can basically go into the option of the question mark and see like why was this result shown to me, and you can see some related searches or some of your past history which was used to match that website or that particular result to your profile. So some things like these are being done, and I feel that as days progress and as more people begin to force these companies to do such things, they are going to come up with such and such tools to kind of minimize that impact at least.
Everything is not gloomy. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Anyone else? We can take one last thought and probably move forward. But yeah, we loved the interaction. This is the interaction we look forward to. Yes, Apurva, go ahead.
Well,
We love your enthusiasm, Apurva.
Mine is a very hard step, but I took it after I read a book by Gerald Lanier about 10 arguments why you should quit social media. Although I would not say I quit it, but I stopped using it. I've stopped using since I would guess 2017 or 16. I have this rule where I have my accounts active everywhere, but I only log in once a year to keep it active. Just so I know people following, they know that I'm alive. But other than that, I don't use Twitter. I used to use it very much. I stopped using it. I don't use Facebook. Of late, I see no point in it. And YouTube, I've started using DuckDuckGo and I use it there. I know there also the algorithm gives me what I've searched on, but I have forced myself to search for things which I want to, and I don't wait for them to show me what I want to see. So if I want to search something, I will search it and I will see that. So that way I've minimized my exposure to all this by a lot. And I've saved a lot of time, and I see that I actually have 24 hours and I don't see my time just whiling away anywhere. And it's been good.
Awesome. That's really inspiring to hear, Apurva. I think this ties back to what Rainer was saying, that digital well-being is very different for different people. And as you saw what Apurva was talking about, he has adopted some habits, some apps, he's deleted his social media. So everyone has a very different relationship, and that's what we want to say. Because we have very different routines, we have very different lifestyles. So just keep that in mind, that there's no one-fit-all solution. That's the point. Let's move forward then, I think, Rainer.
Perfect stuff. So what is digital wellness? Like Rachel just said, right? Digital wellness is pretty subjective for different people. You can, for example, if a social media manager is being told, don't go on social media, it may not work very well, right? But being a social media manager, your role is to actually manage the social media handles of a particular company. If you're doing that and not spending the rest of your time doing infinite scrolling, liking people's posts, constantly checking DMs, I think you're pretty good. And that's what we're trying to do with digital wellness. So you're supposed to practice healthy digital habits on a daily basis. And the reason you're stressing on daily basis is because if you don't do something on a regular basis, you don't get the consistency. And if you don't get the consistency, what you don't see is the physical and mental health outcomes. Take, for example, you want to get fit. You go to the gym, go one day and 6 days you eat 3 filling meals, probably not the best thing. And speaking of daily, here's a question. Where does the day go? I mean, I used to ask myself this question all the time in college. End of the day, you always wonder, what have I done today? The morning you always plan like, okay, I'll go to college, I'll come back and I'll start studying. And if you think about if you're done with college, well, let's say 4 p.m. and then 4 to 9 p.m., let's say, I think you have a very good chance of spending 3 hours of study. Even if you want to do everything, watch Netflix, game, read a book, everything is still realistic to expect. So what we did was, we did this plot, and assuming a typical day is like this, let's say 9 hours at work and school, that's a fair count. And the remaining time at home, 8 hours. And sleeping, which also happens at home, I agree, but the time spent will be 7 hours. So you're left with 9 plus 8, which is 17 hours a day. But I don't think we always feel like we have 17 hours a day, right? So we'll see what happens with these 17 hours. But before we decide what to do with these 17 hours, just wanted to show you what one can actually do. You can watch Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring 5 times in the 17 hours. Watch 7 full-length NBA games. Read Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss 125 times. Play 34 games of laser tag. Don't recommend it, but get the point. Unfortunately, we don't get the full 17 hours. And the reason we don't get full 17 hours is because it's not as easy as A plus B plus C, right? There are certain things which happen during our day. We have obligations, we have commitments, and we have distractions. So after we incorporate basic activities, we see that there is something like we have to commute, we have to have lunch, breakfast, dinner, sleep, we already covered, right? And we spend some time with friends, family at home. So this graph is a bit more realistic. We have the morning, the afternoon, and then we have the remaining time. So how often do you check your phone? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Don't be surprised if people have checked it during this meeting. So let us know in the chat how often do you think you check your phone. And if you don't know, if you don't keep track of this, what you can do is go into your settings. If you're an iOS user, you can check it in your screen time. If you're a Google user, you can check it in the digital well-being settings. So it'll show you how often you pick up your phone, what's your average screen time and so on. And I cannot see the chat, so don't worry, we'll have to.
Don't worry. We'll let you know. Yeah.
Alright.
One slide back, no, yeah. Depends on if you have college or not. Right now, like, what do you think on an average, like every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 30 minutes? Or what you could do is you could go to the apps which Rainer was talking about and see, like, if you've been awake for, let's say, for the last 4 hours and you've checked your screen time, if you've checked your phone 40 times, so just divide that number and you'll get that answer.
You can check the number of unlocks, I think so.
Yeah, correct.
Let me check mine since morning. Let me check mine.
The unlocks is a bit tricky because sometimes I unlock just to see the calendar. So
again,
it depends
it's
on
not about the number exactly. I think that's what Renar is trying to say. It's about what you do as well on. So just keep that.
Just have a look. Maybe if it's 1 hour Instagram already, may not be a good thing. But if you open your phone to, I don't know, do an online course because all of us don't have personal systems, so we might be using our phone for everything. Then that's okay. So the point here is not to feel bad about the screen time you have. If it says 5 hours and 4 hours has been for education and work and 1 hour has been for a movie, that's fine. But if 5 out of 5 has been for social media and movies, then maybe we might have to start asking a few questions. And I'm not saying, it's the end of the world, right? This is when you realize that, okay, I need to take a step, cut down a little. Because that's where we all started, right? It's not like we were born with this, I'm very productive and, very efficient person. None of us are born that way. And in fact, we do have our bad days as well. So that's all we're trying to say here.
And screen time is not evil. It's a friend.
sometimes a little annoying, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like said, sir.
So Rana, I'll
Okay.
tell you the responses. Someone said depends on if you have college or not. Someone said every 10 minutes. Apurva says 10 unlocks since morning. And someone else says on colleges probably every 2 hours. So these are the 4 responses we've got.
Every 2 hours is pretty impressive, honestly. That
Yeah.
means you don't check your phone during your online class. You're probably a good student. As every 10 minutes, yeah, I think every 10, 30 minutes, again, I think even if I have to give my own answer, it's dependent on work. If I'm in meetings, phone's pretty much not used. But let's say if I want to ping someone to come for a meeting and they're not there, then I have to keep checking their responses. Like, hey, Ritom, are you joining? Ritom, are you joining? Ritom, are you joining? So that's pretty much what I have to do. And I get 10 replies. And because my notifications are off, I need to keep the app on so that I can see a reply. Screen time is going to tell me 30 minutes. And I'm like, my screen time's 30 minutes, but didn't really do anything apart from keep the phone on my table. So this is how, we want you to understand your screen time. Be a bit more aware. If you see 1 hour, try to recall what the 1 hour was, right? You don't have to feel bad because it's 1 hour. If you were on a call with family, that's fine. That's
just to add to Rana, I think you mentioned a very important point of notification. So just a point to ponder about, don't take the default of tech. They always want to keep you hooked. Like they'll have notifications, they'll send you reminders. So always go to the settings of tech companies or whatever products you're using, like Facebook, Insta, social media, entertainment. You can tailor those settings for yourself. For example, you can switch off autoplay in Netflix. You can switch off autoplay in YouTube. You can customize your notifications for yourself. So make the tech work for you instead of the tech making you work. So keep that
So
in
a lot
mind.
of these e-commerce companies have like notification categories. Like they try to at least adhere to these categories, like offers and promotions come in one particular category of notifications under that app. Some important notifications like your delivery status and all of that could come under another category. So if these companies actually stick to these categories, then switching off just the offers and promotions and keeping the delivery status or notifications on kind of solves your issue. But sometimes these companies, just to let everybody know that there's an offer, they sometimes switch categories and put this notification type, like they put a notification in the wrong category intentionally or unintentionally. So in that case, it's kind of like a hit or miss situation. But I personally have kept a lot of notifications off. Instagram is off, Twitter is off, WhatsApp, I've kept it open just for these guys so I can talk to these guys. Right, so it definitely helps. I think about like I've reduced kind of about 50-60% of my screen time just by reducing the number of notifications I get. So I only can see what updates are there for me once I log into the app. And I consciously make an effort not to open the app unless I absolutely need to, or I have that much amount of time available for me to do it. So that's how I would go about this as such. Okay, should we move ahead?
I think we can. Yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
Now taking into consideration, all these 10, 15 minutes, 1 hour, and the blessed person was to us. If you see the white stripes on the side, that's how it works, right? So that's where our day becomes slow. If you're checking it every 10 minutes, I've taken the situation of 30 minutes here. So from your original planned day, which was a very good free space, what we're now seeing is white lines in the middle. And those white lines are not just taking up the time you spend on your phone, it can also take up the gaps in between. So if you every 10th minute, if you don't get back, and if you go on a spree of 1 hour, 2 hour, like watching a video episode, you're going to block up the whole first quadrant or the second quadrant, or, you never know where it ends. So that's one thing we're trying to say. So if you do it the other way, let's say you plan your first block and think about it as, okay, 1 hour, it's going to be just me, my phone's out, my screen's out, right? Just maybe your PDF file and your notebook, that's fine. After that, you put next hour. So that's the thing. So if you're checking your phones constantly, you can't really predict what can happen. If you check every 10 minutes, it's going to be 102 pieces on this diagram, and it reduces from there on. And why is this bad? And going from the context of students and office workers, I personally don't like this because every time you look at your phone, or anything for that matter, this doesn't just have to be to your phone, it can be to a distraction as well. And this is where the notifications come into, like Rachel just mentioned, they're designed to hook you. So even if you say you have the discipline and you plan your day and you sit down and you want to start doing your work, but you go and check your phone the next 10 minutes, what happens is what your mind was thinking for the first 10 minutes, you're putting a hard stop there. You're shifting that context to your phone. And then that's why the term context switching, right? So what happens there is your mind is now having a part of it with what you were doing for the first 10 minutes, and now it's deviating to your phone. And when you're going back again from your phone to that task, what happens is you're now having some part of your mind still on the phone, and then you're going to the task. So you're not 100% on either side, right? So you're switching context here and there. So in 10 minutes constantly throughout the day, you can imagine how low the quality of the work would be. And if you can move to the next slide, what this is termed is called attention residue, right? So there's a residual effect of your attention on the task which you're not currently doing, but the task you were previously doing. And as students and working people, this is particularly bad because it reduces your cognitive capacity. So think of it as going on a road in a fast car, right? If you have speed humps every 10 kilometers, even if it's just 10 kilometers, which is a pretty big stretch, to cover 30 kilometers, you can reach, even if it's the fastest car in the world, you have to stop for the speed bumps. You need to accelerate from 0 to whatever top speed it is again, right? So you stop, you zoom, you stop, you zoom, you stop, you zoom. Think of the same car, the same road, just remove the speed breakers, right? Go flat out. Reach your destination faster because one, acceleration time we can consider as attention residue here. And the speed, everything is the same. It's just the speed breakers in the middle, which we can consider as distractions here as your phone. And that's how these apps are designed. We just discussed. These apps are designed to keep you hooked because first thing is these apps are free. So, why would they be free? They need some business model to keep them running. And to keep them running, they need money. And if they need money, they sell ads. They try to keep you on the platform. The longer you're on the platform, the more ads they see. More ads means happy customers. They are not the customers. The customers are the people paying for the ads. It's just, this product in a way.
Just to add a quote, I
So,
think there was very good quote here. If the product is free, you're the product.
exactly. So that's how these apps are designed to keep you hooked. And notifications are, to pull you back in. So that leads us to the final graph which I want to see. So this is what happens with the time. This is where it goes. Right? You have the absolute 9 hours, but what you're actually doing is 7 hours, or could be even lesser. Every 10 minutes will definitely not give you 7 hours, right? So you think you're doing it for 9 hours, and then you're doing it for 7 hours with a lower quality of work. And if you are in such a situation, right, there are certain things we can do. So I didn't want to state such a big problem and then not give you some kind of starting point. So we'll see how to deal with this. So there's 2 ways to do this. One is your current starting point. And I think the most important thing to note is do not go all out. Just like a diet, do not go all out. Pick one thing you're struggling with. If you feel like one app is distracting you, just try, reducing usage of that app. Don't say I'll not use Instagram today at all. If your screen time says 3 hours, maybe try to consider why it's 3 hours. If you are someone who actually needs Instagram for marketing or if that's your job, that's fine. So this is one way to do it. One is the Bandaid Solutions. It's the short term, right? So there's an app called Forest. You just install the app and then you get an option to plant a tree and you set a timer. So within the timer, if the tree doesn't grow, the tree will not grow if you open your phone. So you plant the tree and when you use your phone, the tree dies. So if it says 30 minutes, 0 to 30 minutes has to finish, then you can use your phone. So that's what the app does. Turning off notifications is one more. And keeping your phone in a different room. So some people do this when they want to study, read, do something. They keep their phone in a different room. And there is a research paper which shows that your phone or your screen, which is a distraction, if it's out of sight, you don't really remember it after a certain time. There is no cue point. So cue point is basically when you see something and you don't really intend to use it, but it is a reminder for you to use it, right? So if you keep your phone in a different room, you're getting it different. So these are short-term solutions. And the reason I call them short-term solutions is because these are these are symptoms, not causes of your problem. And our problems can be, different for everyone. And the only way you can answer these, find the answers to these problems is by introspection. That is why it is subjective. So Ritual's cause for using an app will be different to mine, and Ritam's would be different to mine, given different backgrounds and time schedules and circumstances in life. So it's essential that you do introspection, and you can do this along with your short-term solutions. Start using these short-term solutions as training wheels. So maybe, if you're not able to use an app like Forest, for example, to keep your focus on something for long, but at the same time try to figure out, like, why do I have this urge, to text people all day? Are you missing connection with friends and family, which is a very genuine thing you should consider. So you should start thinking about it that way, right? And there's a few other questions, which you can ask. And if we go over to the questions on the next slide, you can actually take a piece of paper and figure out, if you can answer these questions yourself, because these questions can be answered by most of within yourself. So what are my likes and dislikes activity-wise? So I'm not even talking about education or work here. What are your likes and dislikes? Like, do you like a particular sport? For example, if you're watching football, if you're following football accounts on Instagram, is that something you like? Like, is there a other way you can, follow football? Do you really need to spend 3 hours on it? Is that your like? Like, you want to learn more about it? That's fine. What are my interests academically and intellectually? Like, what do you want to do in your spare time? Do you want to learn coding? Do you want to learn to draw? Do you want to learn graphic design? Is there anything you feel is missing from your life? Like, do you miss friends and family, right? What are these behaviors which you want to phase out? So if you're able to make up for texting, as a call a friend instead of texting that friend, right? Spend that 30 minutes with them, have a good conversation. And then, your friend's also happy that you called, and you don't have this urge that you have to keep texting them the whole day. And I personally feel calls are more efficient than texting. So if you do that, instead of constantly texting throughout the day, what you're ending up doing is freeing some time for yourself. And when you free that time, you've already done this socializing bit. And now you can spend some time on your interests, which are either academic or intellectual. So what I'm trying to do is learn content creation. So content creation, so there's a lot of things I need to know which I did not know. By the way, I've learned these only because of the internet, right? So that's the plus point. So I'm using Twitter now to learn things like how does marketing work? Like, what do people like? What do people not like? What should I be putting out? What should I learn to sell? So these are all things you come to know when you learn from the internet. That is an interest of mine, and that's where I want to use this time. What more fulfilling activities can I replace them with? Some people say reading, some people say walking, some people say go to the gym. But the thing is, at the end of the day, only you know what is fulfilling activities. I cannot tell you go to the gym if you want to save 2 hours from just sitting on your bed or your chair. Right? That's up to you. If you want to go for a walk, yeah, that works. You want to listen to a podcast, that works too. It really is up to you. So ask yourself these questions. Right? Once you get an answer, post introspection, you need to ensure that you're actually following up on these activities, because that's the whole point. So you started from the distractions. You reduce the distractions. You go to activities you like. And the more you discover that these are activities you like, you start spending time on them because you automatically are making time for them. And to increase the quality of this time, because you don't want to have these activities and distractions on the side, use something like deep work. So when I say deep work, a very simple level, deep work means you spend, your dedicated time on one particular task. You do not multitask. If you want to read for 1 hour or half an hour or 15 minutes, you just tell yourself, 15 minutes I'm going to read this book. No phone, nothing. That's it. So that's how deep work is. It's just one task for a dedicated period of time. This is just an example. There's a lot of other things you can learn, but we'll never end at this point. So I just want to give you one example. And if you can go to the next page. Right? Once you're done with introspection. So this, as Ritual kept saying, there's a lot of apps, right? We are not anti-tech. We just want to use tech for our personal benefits as opposed to being used by these tech applications. So how enriching are the apps you use? Like, there's a lot of apps I use which I actually benefit from. Like, I use Headspace for meditation. I use Forest. Forest is an app which is actually helping me use my phone less. Do we really need to use our phones all day? Probably not. Again, depending on the situation. If you have online classes, well, yeah, you have to use it all day. It's just a fact. I can't change it. Social media versus the social internet. Social media would be these apps. I don't want to name them. They're probably on your phone, right? And social internet is what we're doing right now. We're using an application to meet with a larger audience, right? And the last one, FOMO versus JOMO. So FOMO is the fear of missing out. And that's why we keep checking our phones. We see if you missed a message or if you missed an event or someone's posted something. We don't want to miss out on it. But at the same time, you're actually missing out in your own life by, being tied into these apps. So if you shift from FOMO to JOMO, which is the joy of missing out, right? You have to realize that you are your priority. And you should actually take happiness in the fact that, you are not missing out on these things, but you're actually spending more quality time with yourself. So if you learn to differentiate it this way, differentiate the apps and everything, then you realize that tech isn't bad, right? Tech isn't bad, it's your usage of it which determines.
To
And
add to that, we need to keep in mind that we need to use technology to supplement our life, not substitute our life. What has happened right now, especially during pandemic times, technology has substituted every aspect of life, but it's something that supplements our life, not substitutes our life. So that's, just keep that demarcation in mind. Yes, go ahead, Rani.
so if I give two starting points, if people are still wondering like, oh, what is this deep work? How do I get discipline, or how do I keep my habits in check? How do I not get distracted? So these two books help me a lot. More than Atomic Habits, I would suggest Deep Work because we are students, right? So the thing we're trying to do is improve our concentration and cognitive function. So if Deep Work is one book I would suggest by Cal Newport. This is the book which helped me improve the quality of studying. And then Atomic Habits would help you on trying to build your habits in a certain way. I would suggest reading these books, preferably in a hard copy as opposed to a soft copy. Pretty much it. That's all I want to talk about. I will hand it over to Rachel at this point.
Thanks a lot for those wonderful insights, Raina. Really helpful. So to quickly summarize literally what Ritam and Raina said, this is what one of our youth advocates in LookUp said, and I quote, "Digital well-being is not limiting oneself from the advancements in technology. It is rather maintaining a healthy relationship. So don't be anti-tech, be healthy tech." Again, kind of reiterating the whole message of what was being talked about. Now coming to digital flourishing. Till now we've only focused on aspects of productivity and just touched other aspects of digital wellness. But there is this sweet spot called digital flourishing. So if you look at digital wellness as a spectrum, at one end of the spectrum is something called a digital detox, wherein you go cold turkey from tech. But at the other end of the spectrum is something called digital addiction. I'm sure a lot of you must have heard of that term. For example, if there's a youth person who's completely addicted to gaming and he's completely absorbed with it, he's not eating well, he's not doing physical exercise, he's just absorbed with his gaming. So he's substituted his whole life with gaming, and that is addiction. And when you go away from gaming, for example, or any of those technologies, you would have withdrawal symptoms. So that is the other end of the spectrum. But what we need to strive towards is that sweet spot in between, which is called digital flourishing. And digital flourishing is a mindful approach to technology usage, which is much more broader than productivity, which we were talking about. So there are a lot of aspects beyond productivity as well. So to break it down, one aspect is how digital technologies affect you. For example, deep work, which Rainer was talking about, having constant context switching. That is a aspect in which digital technologies affect you. And a couple of examples are physical health, mental health. For example, if you're on screens all the day, or if you're on your phone all the day, you're kind of bending your neck and it causes something called text neck. So this is how digital technologies affect you. And there are aspects where digital technologies affect the way you interact with people. For example, while I'm communicating with you, there's a phenomena called digital filter. Because what happens when we're interacting online is there is a filtration happening. Like my body language, the way I'm talking, the pauses, it can't really replicate the offline life, right? So there is a filtration happening. And another example could be, for example, if I'm talking to someone in person and I pick up my phone, the phenomena is called something called phubbing, wherein you're snubbing someone in person by using your phone. So snubbing by using your phone, that is phubbing. That is the second aspect, how digital technologies affect people around you. The third aspect is society at large. I'm sure a lot of you must have heard of the WhatsApp privacy scandal, or as Ritam was talking about, the fake news. So there are aspects which digital technologies affect the society as a whole. So these are three aspects of digital flourishing to keep in mind, and we can go on in detail about this. So this is just to set context for future sessions and for more discussions which we can have. So the big question now, how do I get involved? You've understood the problem, you've taken some kind of steps as well, you understood some solutions you can take up, but let's look at how we can get involved in the larger picture of contributing towards digital wellness. And don't worry, I'll just keep it for 4-5 minutes, then we'll open the platform to discuss about your experiences, your questions, your doubts. So to get involved, look at it as 3 concentric circles or 3 circles. The innermost circle is the LookUp India core team. So you can be a part of the LookUp India core team, and our role is basically to advocate for digital wellness in India and Asia. And the second circle is you can build up your own chapter of LookUp in your college. You can build up a LookUp chapter in GNITS college. So you can advocate for digital wellness in your city, in your college. And the third circle is being a champion, being a change maker. We've talked about all of these steps. We've talked about being all of these problems. So you can advocate for these problems within your family, within your friend circle. So you can do a lot about it within your community itself. And starting as small as showing Social Dilemma to your friends, or showing a lot of these documentaries like Screenagers, Childhood 2.0. There are so many of these documentaries which kind of sparks that awareness. So if there's one thing you should take away today, is that awareness to start and change. So that is what you should keep in mind. Talking about the introspect, exactly. Yes, introspect and awareness. Yes, perfect. Talking about LookUp, so how can you get involved with LookUp? First, talking about LookUp. So we are a youth for youth movement to help people thrive in the digital world. So our mission or our vision is to help people thrive in the digital world, or enable people to lead a healthy relationship with tech. But what's special about LookUp is it's a youth for youth movement. Like youth, like you and me, come in and talk about these issues, come and talk about our struggles, come and talk about these challenges, and come towards solution. So it's a youth for youth movement. If you look at movements otherwise in digital wellness, you'll see a lot of aged people out there, but not. So if you look at this issue, digital well-being issues are being faced mostly by youth. I do agree it's being faced by old people as well, or aged people as well. But we are facing the grunt of it. If you look at the statistics of mental health, physical health, and so on and so forth. Idea is a lot of people are not involving the youth, but that is what LookUp is doing different. It's bringing those youth out and talking about those issues for youth itself. And India, LookUp India is basically a regional chapter where we drive those youth-driven solutions towards tech-led balance. And we do advocacy around digital wellness, and it's through multiple channels. We have a podcast called LookUp, Not Down, and we'll post the link here as well. We have a lot of other channels as well. We have events, which we do. We have written content. We have articles. We do social media campaigns while not trying to keep people hooked on social media. So these are various channels we use to kind of advocate for digital wellness in our community. And we would love to have you as well. We would love to feature your story. We can see from the chat window that some of you have taken some steps towards digital wellness. Some of you have some struggles with digital wellness. We would love to see if we can feature you through our audio content, video content, or some way we can. Because idea is we are going to talk about this issue, and we want to solve this issue because this is very important right now. And most importantly, we have our Youth for Youth Summit coming up. It's a global summit, and it's the second time it's happening. Last time we had partnered with Social Dilemma, and we're doing it this time as well. And the core theme of this summit is to bring out these youth to talk about these issues. And 4 sub-themes is under thriving in the digital world is, one is how do you build a healthy digital world? For example, talking about mental health, emotional well-being. Second is how do you make it inclusive? For example, how do you include people from different races, genders, LGBTQ+, etc. Third is how do you build ethical products? So if you look at tech companies, which you were talking about, they sometimes build products that are keeping us hooked, or for them the currency is advertising, or for them the currency is to make us spend more time. So how do you build products that kind of changes the business model, or that unhooks users per se? And the last is addressing the digital triggers, the aspects which Ritum talked about: cyberbullying, fake news, cancel culture, etc. So these are 4 sub-themes which we are trying to target from our Youth for Youth Summit. And just to reiterate, we've talked about how do you get involved with the core team. You can also set up your chapter, which we can discuss in much more detail. And you can be a digital well-being champion. So these are aspects you should keep in mind for your own digital well-being journey. So I often say this: first, you become aware. Now you embody these steps of digital wellness. Then you empower others to take these steps. So remember, awareness, embodiment, empowerment. And this is where empowerment starts. We've talked about awareness. You've taken some steps as well. Now empower other people to kind of thrive in the digital world. And that is the thought that I would love to end with. And I'll open the platform for questions. These are just resources you can refer, and we've already put a lot in the chat window. But yes, don't get excited and go through all of those resources one at a time. Otherwise, too much information over there. So yeah, opening it up for questions, thoughts, discussions. We just end on time.
So if anyone is having any questions, you put it on chat window. But before that, there are a few questions that we have got in the form. Let me read them out so that you can answer them. Okay, the first question is, when we are on a digital detox process, how do we let our community, like our WhatsApp groups or our Instagram friends, know that we are in the process? So let me have my time. So how do we let them know? That's one of the questions.
I can take it up. And so I did recently a digital detox last month. What I did was, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I did a digital detox last month. What I did was I put a WhatsApp status telling that I'm unplugging to reconnect with myself, taking time off for myself. So I put a WhatsApp status. I put a photo as well so that people are aware of the expectation. And I made sure I communicated that to my LookUp community and others community that I work with. So expectation setting, set those expectations and people would respect that. But to add here, I would say digital detox is not sustainable because if you go cold turkey from technology, and when you come back, so if you go cold turkey, you'll feel good in the moment, you'll feel happy about it, but when you come back, you'll again be inundated. So it's not a sustainable solution. You can try it out, but it's not sustainable. What is sustainable is what Rainer was talking about. First trying those band-aids and then going to that discipline aspect.
In fact, if you send Rijul an email and you get a reply from him, you'll see the footer, I'll respond within 24 to 48 hours. So the person in front actually knows, hey, that's the average time period this person might take to respond. And it need not be instantaneous.
Exactly. Expectation setting. And we need to keep this in mind, like a lot of you would be transitioning to corporate world as well, which is that culture of being 24/7 online. So if you set expectation, it helps a lot. Good, Rainer.
Exactly. It set expectations. So when I went on a detox last year, that's because I wanted experience. I had not been on a detox before. I used to take single day detoxes, which I think is more sustainable, especially if you want to do a lot of things. I would just say chuck your phone. Let's put a 24-hour status. That's all fine. But more important in the work front. So try to ensure that your managers know where you're coming from. Don't tell them I'm not going to use WhatsApp. Tell them why you're not going to use WhatsApp, right? So tell them, listen, I'm trying to, improve certain aspects of my life and I've been using my phone a bit too much. So to reduce these distractions, I will not be accessible through WhatsApp or any other platform which you're normally accessible through. And if it's work, they can still access you during work. So it's not a bad thing. And you tell them in emergencies, they can call you. And mostly they don't. So because they'll think twice before calling. It's easier to send a message. When it's calling, you have to think twice. So.
And the world is not going to end if you detox for 1 or 2 days. And things will settle up.
Although your company may say so.
Company may say so. And one more example, keep an emergency option if you go for a detox. For example, I do 10 to 12 hour detoxing every day of my life, including sleep, obviously. I sleep with this old-fashioned landline. So people my family, my friends can call me up here in case it's an emergency. So have those backup options. Take a feature phone if you want. So just giving you a couple of...
You haven't given us your landline number.
It's because you're not in the emergency list.
Yes. But yeah, but again, it's not sustainable. Again, as Rainer and me were reiterating. Just keep that in mind.
I see a hand raised.
So the next question is, why do we keep scrolling? Okay. Okay, you can go on. Whoever has raised.
No, it's okay. Let the person who's asking that question go on. Go after that. It's okay. Please.
Okay, sure. So the question is, why do we keep scrolling and how do we stop it?
Do you want me to take that or I can
take it because my answer is going to be really funny.
Okay. Let's keep the fun one afterwards then. So basically what happens is...
But it's not practical.
Okay. I'll explain what happens. There's no stopping you. If you start scrolling, there's no stopping you. It doesn't stop. So in life, I'll give you an example of a research. So what happened was there was a research in which there was a soup bowl and some soup was being fed. And the idea was that person was drinking that soup and through that pipe, soup was being sent. And he was keep on drinking it because there was no stopping you. And idea is that's why we keep on scrolling because there's no stopping you there. And there are a lot of apps to counter this. There's something called Anchor in Google Digital Wellbeing, in which what happens is if you go to your social media app, your feed becomes darker. Or there are apps, there are extensions like To Do Book, which kind of blocks your extension. I'll give a quick demo here so that all of you understand.
An extension to block your extensions.
An extension to block your feed. My bad.
Okay.
So if you see my screen right now, I've gone to my YouTube, and this kind of blocks your social media feed. It happens for LinkedIn and Facebook as well. This extension basically asks you your intentionality before you go forward. So what do you want to get done before looking at YouTube? What is your intention? And I can go forward, obviously. I can be a quitter, but it gives me 5 minutes to actually go through my feed. So then it again blocks back. This has been really helpful for me to not mindlessly scroll. This is an extension I use on a day-to-day basis. Now,
that's actually useful.
Very useful. And now I'll stop the serious stuff and give it to
even
Rana.
I wouldn't, honestly, I wouldn't mind an extension which blocks extensions.
That's a good extension, the one which prevents you scrolling. But so when I went on a detox and came back, for 1 week it was fine. I didn't have that. The thing is, the moment you start scrolling, right, you intuitively increase the duration of your scrolling. So the second detox I did. So this is one thing I like about detox is the more detoxes you do, the more you're aware about certain things. Like your first detox, you'll come back and I'm like, okay, I'm back to this. The second detox you do, you'll feel a bit more, I would say, disciplined, but I think you're also more habituated to it. You're more aware. Okay, I'm not going to start scrolling, and that's literally what I've done in Instagram now. I don't scroll at all. It's just don't. Stories, I don't swipe. I scroll from the top. This is really something I want to check on a story. I tap it and then close it. But that's not feasible for everyone. So I don't want to give it as a suggestion because, the whole point of the app is to check something by scrolling. My solution is to not scroll. And honestly, I don't get a lot of value from scrolling Instagram. I do get it from Twitter. So in Twitter, most of the topics I follow are not addictive. They're about things I want to consume. Eventually, I'm going to run out of things I want to consume. So I'm like, okay, I'm done for the day, so I close it. So it's not practical, but it's just something. If you can commit yourself to not scrolling at all, like just don't scroll. The first post you see is the only post you see.
Yeah, even on YouTube, like for example, you should probably not look at your home feed because they are not particularly your subscriptions. They also include videos which YouTube thinks you should be watching. So it's better to directly go to the subscriptions tab on your phone, or you click on the bell icon to basically see which channels which you already are subscribed to, what did they post particularly, and that list is much smaller than your actual feed. So if you just look at that notification feed, like which channels of yours which you are subscribed to, what did they post, if you can just look at that particularly, you kind of remove the distraction of other unrelated or possibly related by the algorithm but possibly not giving enough value to you. You can remove those kinds of videos and just focus on the creators you want to watch videos for. And of course there are extensions to block your home feed, even on YouTube, even on Facebook. You can also use them, but I have noticed like some of them kind of stop working, especially because these companies also keep working, like they keep making changes which keeps breaking these extensions in turn, right? So even these developers have to keep working to ensure that it is updated as per the latest versions of those websites. So you can try any of these solutions definitely and see what works for you. It's up to you what you want to work, like how much of it do you want to work of it, right? So it's definitely a personal choice. Are we in a tech bubble away from reality? So that's a question in the chat. Sure, if you want to look at it that way. Like honestly, like if you think that you are deriving enough value in that bubble and it kind of benefits you professionally or academically or something like that, then it's worth it staying in that bubble, right? But if you think that it's restricting your understanding of the world, it's restricting your viewpoints on certain aspects, like physical aspects, or maybe best example would be like political aspects, right? So you're kind of in an echo chamber of the same kind of opinions. So in that case, it might be harmful. So depends on what kind of content you consume, and if you feel that it's not working for you, or if you feel that you are in that bubble, you should definitely experiment with other kinds of content as well and see if those add value to you as well. That's what I personally try. Like you follow some creators or you follow some profiles which are opposite to what you already follow. and you find that they are also like perfectly fine to follow, right? There's nothing wrong with their content. It's kind of a completely opposite viewpoint, which also makes sense. So that's kind of enriching for you in a way. So definitely you should experiment.
Because I would say it's also enabling you with a lot of access to. While you may seem a bubble, as Ritam was saying, you're able to collaborate with communities outside your country. You're able to access the resources from across the world. I think the use cases are a lot. So it's all about how you make use of it. But again, have a life outside that tech bubble too.
Yeah. Somebody asked
Tech
like
bubble is one
social,
part of it.
yeah. Somebody asked, is social media which we use today a necessity, or is there a world with possible without social media?
Can I pick this one?
Yeah, sure. Good.
So there's an answer which substantiates both sides. The person I follow called Cal Newport has proven that you don't need social media at all. Like any presence doesn't exist apart from his website. That's not social media. So he's not on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. I even searched him on LinkedIn. He's not on anything. He's reachable by mail, and he has 5 emails which are targeted to different reasons you're reaching out to him. So he's on the extreme side. Yet he has a podcast which is popular. He has written books which are popular. He has so normally people say, oh, if I'm not on social media, I cannot increase the reach of my product, or I cannot become popular because it's not wide enough doing it without these applications. He has proven that it is possible. But then there's the other side where people say that you can be on social media and still have a normal life, which is essentially what you're trying to do with digital flourishing. So point is, you can go both ways. You can go extremes. The only extreme you don't want to go is using social media for everything. That's the one we obviously is not realistic. You can go the hardcore way, but then you'll have to take into consideration your situation. If you are a social, if you are a product or a company or a person who has the need for social media in the sense that it gives you income, promotes your company, has validation from that front, is something you use and is working well, then just because Cal Newport says he has done it without doesn't mean you do it. First thing to note is that these are people who have not entered into it. They have never bothered to continue into it. So they have been fine with it. But if you have been, let's say you have a website which gets at 100,000 clicks a month, and suddenly you stop the main source of it, which is maybe Facebook ads and Twitter ads and Instagram ads, it may not be the wisest thing to do from going cold turkey. So it really depends on your situation. Both of them are possible situations, and they've been proven from both ends. So there's no right or wrong answer here.
I would say experiment. Go sometime without social media and see how it works. But in college, you can really experiment. But once you're in corporate world, it won't be possible, to be honest. But right now, it's a good place for you to experiment and see if it works for you or not. And what is the right balance? What is the right flourishing thing for you? Like which tools to use, how to use. But again, you need to keep on evolving.
I hope we answered the question though.
Yeah. Hope it made sense or not too long. Or
I mean, you can reach out to us if you want further clarification on these questions. We are accessible on, well, ironically, social media, but yes.
yes, the conversation doesn't end here. You can reach out to LookUp, to us via personal media handles,
Yeah,
or
you could
even
ask
the Youth
us
for Youth
like
Summit as well.
why, yeah, you could ask us like why are we on social media as LookUp India, although we're kind of trying to tell you to stay away from it, like telling you to stay away from it. So well, it's more like producing the right kind of content, and it's not intended for reach. So some companies out there intentionally put out posts which are supposed to draw in more user engagement, or they're supposed to bring in more viewership, but that's not our basic goal. So even if you see, our follow count is much less, because we don't exactly try to fine tune our content towards increasing that engagement or increasing the follower count, or like particularly having a posting schedule so it kind of matches the algorithm's expectation of that profile. So we are not trying to do all of these things. It's just meant to be a repository of the important materials which we feel is important or related to this topic. And if you feel that you drive value or you get value out of it, then definitely feel free to check us out on our social media if you like.
And we have to be on social media because that's That's the whole point. It's like going to a place and shouting when no one's listening, right? All the people who should be aware are on social media, because the people who don't have an addiction would not really benefit from knowing these things because they're already aware of it.
Yeah, and if you don't prefer to having like seeing us on social media, we also have like a website on stuff. You can Google us, you can find our website, you can find our specific initiatives. Like we have a podcast, you can check it out on all the audio platforms out there. Around what 18, 19 platforms we are present on. So you can check out on whatever audio platform you prefer. So it's our podcast. What we'd say is, it's something like a no screen initiative, right? So it's a platform, but it does not really involve screens for interaction, or you don't need to constantly keep scrolling to listen to it. You just need to like click on it and you can leave it like playing in the background if you like. Right, so there's not much interaction needed from your side to listen to it. So that's one of the main reasons we kind of start this podcast initiative. And also we have a blog on the website also, so we post content regularly, and we have a sort of community hub. So it's like a Facebook group, but not on Facebook, of course. So the link we have posted in this slideshow, lkup.cf/join. You can join our community hub as well. So we all are active there. We post regular content. Rajul is very active there.
And that community doesn't collect data about it.
Yeah, it doesn't collect data. There is no advertisements for it, just because it is a paid platform, right? So it's not a free to use platform. Like the hosts need to pay for it out of their own pocket. So that's the only business model which that platform has. So of course, Rajul is very active on it. He posts regular newspaper articles on it. N number of articles. Also, it's kind of a global community, so you can directly access everybody out there in the LookUp community worldwide, so including the US, Africa, UK, and all of the other countries as well. So
Susan.
Susan and Julie are also there on the community hub. You can reach out to them directly there.
They're basically the heads of LookUp.
Yeah. You can check them out too.
Anyone wants to unmute and talk about
I think
how their session
one of the participants wanted to ask something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Is the participant
I
still
think
on the
Apurva
call?
wanted to ask something.
No, I did not want to ask something. I specifically wanted to add some of the things that I follow, and to adding to Rena's point about the digital detoxes, you take a mini detox and you come back and you experiment and you see what you have done and you learn from it. So a couple of years back, I was scrolling endlessly on Twitter, and what I realized then is I have to stop. So from that point on, I still have that account, but I don't log into it or use it. And what I have made a point is before going to bed, I don't touch my phone. So if let's say if I'm going to bed at 11, so I'll stop using my phone by 10:30. And after I wake up, I don't touch the phone for the first 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. I would touch it just to see if there is a message, but I don't turn the Wi-Fi on or the data on to check anything. And I've reached this level of awareness that I just, even if I don't switch off the notifications, I just chuck them away. I just keep swiping out and just throwing them away. I don't see the notifications. I don't check the notifications. I only check the notifications of the ones that I want, and the others I don't want. Again, this will take a lot of time to reach this level because I've been doing it for a long time, and I've tuned my mind that I will only search. I will only see the things that I want to, and I don't scroll endlessly. So if I know that I want this and I know that these are the sources, I'll go there and check it. And if something is unknown to me, I go there and that time the scrolling goes a little out of hand, but I'm aware that okay, I'm scrolling this much. This is the amount of scrolling that I have done, and I have to stop after that. So that is one way of being aware. And another is be a active internet user. Don't be a passive internet user. Be specific in your mind that what you want. There's a saying, idle mind is a devil's playground. So when you're idle, don't touch your phone. I would say simply that. Just pick up a book, pick up a hobby, do something. Or if you want to pick up your phone to learn a hobby from that. Or you can learn to code, you can learn to play guitar, you can learn gardening, you can do all sorts of good things out of it. I'm not saying phone is all bad, technology is all bad. No, technology is never bad. It's the way you use it that makes it bad or good. That's that's uh, that's all I want to add. And again, this will take a good deal of time to come to, and don't be deterred in the beginning few weeks or months that you're unable to do it. Try taking baby steps. Try by not looking at your phone for 2 hours, 3 hours. Try not concentrating on your notifications and only concentrating on the notifications you want. And even if you can't switch them off, don't worry. Just look at the ones that you want, and even if you have the temptation to look at it, just try to stop yourself from not looking at it. That's all I want to add.
Well said.
That was a mini session in itself. Loved it.
Okay, I think any more questions? I think we crossed the time. It's already 1:20.
No
Yeah.
worries. But yes, don't worry. It doesn't end here. We'll continue the conversation at Youth for You Summit. You can reach out to us and through other channels.
Yes. Yeah, so I think we can end the section. All the guests, please remain. Please be here. We'll have a group photo with all the SB members. Thank you everyone for joining us. It was an amazing section. I just want to add, I have been part of LookUp India, and I know Rijal Arora posts a lot, and I have read a few articles. There's a lot of when I to India, and it was amazing being there. And I have met many people who are interested in it, who talk about digital wellness. I have read articles they have written, and so everyone here, you can join, and I have just told my experience in it. So yeah. So thank you to all the speakers. I request all the SB members to stay in the meeting, and also the guest speakers will have a group photo. Thank you everyone.